Hello and herzlich willkommen to another self-help video with Vivesco Active Living. Got lower back pain? I can help you. Today I want to talk to you a little bit about why so many people have pain through that L4, L5 area in particular, and then show you 3 moves, what you can do when you have an acute flare-up, when you have issues for the first time, experiencing pain or tightness through that area. So, starting up, why is it that it is usually that lower lumbar region that people have issues with? If we're looking at our spine, and I haven't got a skeleton here, so I'm just going to use this to demonstrate something a bit later. But when we look at the spine and the movable parts of the spine, we've got the cervical spine, the thoracic spine, and the lumbar spine. 7 vertebrae, 12 and 5. So you've got 24 workers, let's call them workers. And what happens is that due to lifestyle for most people, our cervical workers and our thoracic workers tighten up and get very lazy and don't move a hell of a lot around. So most of the workload now is distributed further down into the lumbar spine onto our 5 workers that we have there, and often even more so down to those 2 workers, L4 and L5, that have to do all the load. Now, also the lumbar spine, our lumbar workers, those 5, they're not really designed to do a lot of movement. Our thoracic is actually supposed to be the one that's moving and rotating and doing a lot of stuff. So besides the point that it's now only 2 out of 24 that are doing most of the workload, they're also doing work they're actually not supposed to be doing. So all that would make really clear if you're putting that into human workers. If you've got 24 workers, only 2 do the job, they're going to get exhausted and go at some point, stuff that and just throw the towel. Okay, so that's pretty much what happens when you start getting back pain in that area. Now, something else that happens is that our spine is carried by our pelvis. So imagine the pelvis is like a bowl that should move our spine around. So if I try to balance this, what is on top of his spine, and then we've got the head on top here. So if I balance this, it's not the spine that's moving, but actually my hand, my arm in this case more so, and I'm not really good at this, that is keeping this in balance. Now again, what happens? Our hip, our pelvis lock up, don't move enough, so this gets very stiff. Therefore now this part here has to move because all this is stiff. And again, so this is representing our lumbar spine. And so we've got those 2 factors that put a lot of work, a lot of effort through that lumbar spine. The reason our hip seize up is because of how we're sitting all day long. We've got our pelvis sitting down into an posterior tilt, so hips are tilting back. That's how we're usually sitting. Then that's transferring up into our spine and onto the computer. So, this is very common. So all this is locking up. Then we've got the neck that's also kind of kinking here to readjust because we can't do our work like this. We have to look at our screen, and we're constantly sitting in this position. So our bum just kind of goes, yeah, I don't have much to do, so I might as well just shut down. What we ideally would like is to be in a bit more neutral position here. We don't want to go into overextension, obviously, but just into a bit more of a neutral position here, and obviously a bit more upright through here, and aligning this all a bit more, and that would be much more convenient and better for us to do to stay healthy and have a healthy spine. So I hope that makes it a little bit clearer why it is the L4, L5 and not the neck that people usually have issues with. It's usually tight shoulders people have problems with, but that's another topic. But yeah, so it's those 2 factors that the pelvic goes completely numb and just shuts down, doesn't do much. The spine, upper spine, thoracic, cervical goes completely into that curved shape and just locks up and stays there, doesn't move much. So now it's all through that lumbar region, through that waist where everything is happening. So the movements I'm going to show you now are supposed to obviously get the pelvis moving a little bit more again, and we're also getting a bit of a stretch to the upper spine, but we're mostly working through the hips. As I said, this is more symptomatic treatment, not so much actually gonna take care of the problem. But if you're having a flare-up, try this. Alright, so movement 1. For this you want to go literally just into a pelvic tilt, going back and forwards. So you want to be standing with your feet about hip wide, nice and relaxed. If we can, bare feet is always best. Our knees are going to be off lock, so not locked through here, but off lock, nice and soft and somewhat stable. Now, depending on how bad it is for you and how painful the situation is for you, you need to find your dosage here, okay? So everything, when we look at medication, movement or exercise also needs the proper dosage for you to help you. Otherwise, it can make things worse or it doesn't have an effect at all. So with this movement here as well, to have an effect, we are looking at doing this movement for around about 2 minutes. Doing this for 10 seconds is not going to do anything. 2 minutes, multiple times a day, okay? If you're having an acute situation. Now, if you've got good range, which you probably won't have in an acute situation, you're looking at going into a full extension here, bring the bum out, and then a full flexion through here, as much as you can bring it forward. Now, as I said, you might feel this is too much because you're in an acute situation. So your movement might be somewhere just here. Very small movement, nice and gently, and then getting bigger as you go through this 2 minute period. But even for maybe for the first time, 2 minutes might be all you can do this small movement. Ideally, hopefully at some point, the pain is going to go away and you will get this movement back here. Now, you look at this and you might go, okay, I am moving my pelvic here, but I am also moving through that lumbar region again. And it's yes, you are. However, you are moving more so through your sacrum and through the coccyx further down as well. Okay, so yes, you're still going to have an effect on that L4 and L5, but we do want an effect on that area. So we are actually feeding it some blood back in, we're warming it up, we're getting it moving, we're getting things active. You're also kind of actually squeezing your bum here, so you're starting to waken those muscles up again. So that's what's happening through here. We're getting a nice opening up through the hips here, which is also great because when we're sitting, this is usually very short, even though we're in that posterior tilt through the hip, because this is then short, we're actually kind of pushing back again into that extension. So by doing this, we're opening the hips up here and just moving this back and forward. So that's movement number 1, getting some movement, blood flow, circulation, warming up, getting nutrients back into this up here. Right, so for movement number 2, it's more of an actual stretch position we're going into, and you want somewhere where you can sit on top of that's got an edge. So whether that's a stable chair or a table or a bench top, whatever you've got present. If you're in the gym, there's those plyo boxes you can use. So find something where you can, that's stable. This is actually a little bit too soft, and I'll tell you why in a second. So solid ground with an edge. If you need something to put on your heels, go and get a bolster or a towel, anything you can roll up, or even a solid surface again to put on your heels, because we want to go into a deep squat position here. Yeah, so some people just need that little bit of support under the heels to actually be able to get into that position a lot easier. So whatever you need to do, get into that position. Now you're going to do this facing the edge side. I'm just showing this side on for now so you get an idea. So you want to be in your deep squat position. Put this back out, and we want to round and roll our back here. Okay. So we really want to get a nice big stretch, not just through the lower back. We also want a nice stretch through the whole spine. Have a weight ready as well. This is only 4 kilos, all I've got at home at the moment, so something heavier might be on order. If you've got someone who can hand that to you while you're in that position, even better. If not, you've got to just work with yourself. Now, quick side note here, why you should have a solid surface, not a soft surface. With the soft surface, I really have to work to keep my ankles in good alignment. If I relax this, I'm pronating super hard from my ankles here right now because of the soft surface. So I'm just gonna do a little bit of work while I'm down here. And then grab your weight, and then you want to just relax into this position and let the weight drag you down. Relax your head as well. And just feel that stretch. Initially, you might find you have enough stretch without the weight, so just let your hands kind of relax here. But yeah, if you're not feeling enough through that lower back in particular, you might feel it further up the spine as well, because as I said earlier, they lock up as well. So thoracic, cervical, they get very stiff and tight, stuck in a position. So even for them here to go into a bit of a stretch and open that tissue back up is definitely beneficial. So you might feel that further up the chain a bit more than where you actually have your problem. And again, we want to hang in that position for about 2 minutes. And then obviously be very gentle and careful when you come out of this. So I would actually just kind of roll back onto my bottom and come slowly out of that position. For most people, it would be too hard to come out of that stretch and roll up. And I'm out of the camera now, haha. So yeah, I'd just kind of roll back, let my legs down, maybe sit back, stretch through here, and do a little bit of movement now while we're here through that thoracic, because we've just stretched that out. So now we want to try and maybe get a bit of movement back into those as well while you're at it. Cool, so that's movement number 2, and we're going into movement number 3. All right, for movement number 3, you're going to be on the floor. We're going to get you into a 90-90 seat if you can manage. So 90-90 means you want to have all your joints lined up in a 90-degree position to each other. So my ankle is 90-degree, knee is 90-degree, hip is 90-degree. You should have a straight line down here. You use your hand that's currently from me away from the camera to support yourself. If this seat is too much for you, you can come into a bit more of a number 4 sit. So you bring your front leg in and the back leg as well. So you're reducing the angles through your knees. And that's often a bit more comfortable for people. So that's a possible position as well. But if you can go into that 90-90, support yourself here. And we're pretty much doing the same movement that we did earlier, standing up. So we want to move through our pelvic joint here, or through our pelvis, through our hips, and just going into that extension and that flexion. Now through that seated position, you will feel your hip joint a lot more. So I'm talking now about the femur, your thigh bone connecting into your hip bone, which is also an area that seizes up through our seated position. So this is now what we're targeting here. And this can be a little bit painful again as well. So again, if your movement is just here to start with, that's fine. There's nothing wrong with it, okay? Just open it up as you go, make it bigger as it gets better and easier. The dosage is what makes the outcome. So if you want a good outcome, find the dosage that is right for you. If you find if you're not getting the right dosage, you will feel it or not feel it, depending on whether you're doing too much or not enough. Now also, as I said, this will flow through the hip a fair bit here. So if it's not feeling too, or if it's feeling really good through the back but starting to get a bit too much through here, same thing, okay? Leave it there. Obviously you want to do both sides on this one. And you might even find there's a difference between right and left. And again, just doing what you can, but try and do it for at least 2 minutes. You know, often you get an issue, if you're lucky you get a referral to a few physio sessions, but then you got to book that in. Often they're booked out. So if you're lucky, you're getting a session like every 2 weeks, and most people don't actually do something at home. Where once you look into rehabilitation work, what you really need to do is frequency. So as I said, like doing just 10 seconds of this here once a day is definitely not going to cut it. If you can manage to do 2 minutes once a day, you're already on a better way. And if you can even manage a couple of times or 3 times a day doing 2 minutes, even better. But again, it comes back to how it feels to you, and yeah, just what feels good to you, and work with that. No pain, no gain is definitely not the slogan we're going with here. No pain, more gain is kind of what we're after. A little bit of discomfort is okay, but it shouldn't be painful. If you're doing this and you're going like, far out, this is really painful, then leave it. Yeah, not the right thing for you. All right, and that's the 3 moves to give you some first aid help for your lower back pain. Let me know how you go. If you've got any questions, yeah, leave me a message, leave me a comment, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and we'll see you again next time. In diesem Sinne, tschö und bis bald.